Now we're moving on to chapter 15, which is called The Gift. And it's focusing on Michael, who's Eileen's brother and uncle to Mary Bridget. You might remember that the big house where he worked with the horses was burnt down and they were selling off all the horses, but he was given two as payment for his wages that he was owed. So chapter 15, The Gift. Michael patted Morning Boy's silky coat. The large burn on his side had started to heal, the skin and hair finally knitting together. Glengarry was busy grazing, her long neck bent, her jaws chomping on the blades of grass. One hoof was held at an awkward angle, not supporting her properly. Both horses were still recovering from the fire. All the other horses had gone at this stage, sold off to the highest bidders, a few going to England. Young Brendan had been offered a job with Mr. Delahunt. "I'll still see some of our horses, Michael," he said. "Won't that be grand?" Michael had to suppress a pang of jealousy as he saw the younger lad's eager and excited face. Toss Byrne had come down to the stables as the horses were being sold off, moving among the burnt-out buildings. He gave Michael a horse blanket, 2 worn bridles, and 2 full sets of harnesses. Toss said goodbye to the horses in his own fashion. Michael watched the way he went up to each one of them, right up close, his head and lips almost touching their pointed ears, talking to them, whispering to them. Michael watched as the old man walked towards Glengarry, his voice slow and soothing. Soothing means comforting, getting her to lift her head and listen to him. "Michael," he beckoned. To beckon is a gesture, like you might do this. And Michael swung himself up over the wooden fence into the paddock. Toss was whispering away in a low voice to the horse. "Michael, stand beside me. Listen to me," ordered Toss. Michael came nearer. "Michael, you already have the gift of handling horses," said Toss. "You like them and care about them. They know and feel it. They trust you because you treat them like intelligent animals, recognizing that they get sad and nervous, and angry and scared and happy and giddy, just like we humans do." "Aye," agreed Michael. "Michael, you know I have no children, no sons. Today I want to give you a gift. Well, much of it you already have. This was passed from my father to me. He got it from his father before him. Move right up close by me." Michael stood beside the horse, his hand stroking her side. "Just listen." Toss began to whisper, and Michael could make out the horse's name, Glengarry. Toss whispered of wind in the trees and green grass growing, of soft rain that fell and night sky that drew in and stars that watched from above. He spoke of horses that pulled and ploughed and helped man to till the earth that God gave them. He told of horses that carried men into battle in the names of kings and queens, of all the animal kingdom, large and small, and of the horse's place as a friend of man. Glengarry stood totally still, listening, ears pricked, eyes wide and alert as the whispering went on. Toss spoke of times past, times present, and times to come. He spoke of the races she'd run, the foals she'd had and would have, and the races they too would run. Michael barely dared to breathe. Toss whispered to Glengarry of the lifeblood that coursed through her body, the energy that must travel to heal her damaged leg and hoof. She seemed to whinny softly, blowing air down her velvety nostrils. Her heart seemed to beat strong and steady as the voice talked on and on to her. As Michael listened, the words changed. They did not seem like normal words, but ran together. It wasn't Gaelic or English or French, but he could sort of understand it, just the way Glengarry seemed to. Then Toss's voice trailed off. Glengarry sniffed at the man's head and hair, and Toss patted her playfully. "Aye, she's a good one, Michael, a right good one," said the older man as they walked back across the field. "Thank you, Toss," said Michael. "I've never heard the gift of whispering before. It's a rare thing." "Now you must try it. It'll help you with the horses in future, Michael. Mark my words. Call Morning Boy." The young horse loved attention and cantered over immediately. Michael was nervous as he bent towards Morning Boy's neck. "Morning, boy, born as the moon dipped and the sun rose warm from earth," whispered Michael. It was only a few days' walk to Eily's home. So you can see that Michael doesn't live right beside Eily, and it's a different landlord situation where Eily lives than where Michael was living. Michael took it good and easy with the horses. Glengarry's leg was improving, but she was still fairly lame. Walking through the open countryside reminded Michael of the time before when, hungry and scared, dressed in rags and starving, he had walked because his very life had depended on it, with his sisters, Eily and Peggy, at the height of the Great Famine. Remember, he had to walk to Eily's home because only the rich had carriages. There was no cars back then. We're talking about in the 1800s. He gave a sigh of relief when he finally reached the townland where Eily's cottage was. He had so much to tell them all about the fire and the Bucklands and his 2 horses. Another mile or 2 and he would see the whitewash of his sister's cottage, where old Aunt Nano would make him sit down like a travelling storyteller and go through all that had happened. He grinned to himself, longing to see them all again. That's the end of that chapter. That was chapter 15. We'll be moving on to chapter 16 tomorrow. It's called The Visitor. Thanks for listening.